When you hear the names Cheech and Chong, what comes to mind? Probably clouds of smoke, endless laughter, and that iconic "Dave's not here" bit that became a cultural touchstone. But here's the thing. There's so much more to Richard Cheech Marin and Tommy Chong than just their stoner comedy legacy. Behind the haze and the humor lies a story filled with unexpected twists, serious talent, and facts that most fans have never heard. We're about to pull back the curtain on one of comedy's most iconic duos, and trust me, some of these revelations will completely change how you see them. Let's start at the very beginning, because the origin story of Cheech and Chong reads like something out of a movie itself. These two comedic legends didn't meet at a comedy club or through mutual friends in Hollywood. No, their paths crossed in one of the most unexpected places imaginable, a Vancouver strip club called the Shanghai Junk. Tommy Chong, born to a Chinese father and Scottish-Irish mother in Edmonton, Alberta, had already experienced a taste of fame before comedy ever entered the picture. He was a talented musician who played guitar in a Motown-signed band called Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers. The group even opened for the legendary Ike and Tina Turner. But by the late 1960s, Tommy had moved away from music and into the nightclub business. He wasn't running just any ordinary strip club, though. Tommy being Tommy, he wanted to create something different, something that blended entertainment with art. So he turned the Shanghai Junk into a unique venue that featured improvisational comedy sketches performed between the exotic dancers' sets. It was burlesque meets improv theater, and it was unlike anything else in Vancouver at the time. Meanwhile, Cheech Marin's journey to that fateful meeting was even more dramatic. Born and raised in South Los Angeles, Cheech was the son of a police officer and seemed headed for a completely different life. He was studying pottery at California State University, Northridge, dreaming of becoming a ceramicist. But then the Vietnam War draft came knocking, and like many young men of his generation, Cheech faced an impossible choice. He didn't want to fight in a war he didn't believe in, so he made the bold and risky decision to move to Canada to avoid the draft. This wasn't an easy choice. It meant leaving behind his family, his education, and any clear path forward. But Cheech was determined to follow his conscience, even if it meant an uncertain future in a foreign country. Living in Vancouver as a draft dodger, Cheech took whatever work he could find. He drove delivery trucks, moved furniture, and did odd jobs to keep himself afloat. He continued working with clay whenever possible, but life was a day-to-day struggle. Then one night in 1970, desperate for any kind of paying gig, Cheech walked into the Shanghai Junk. Tommy took one look at him and saw something special. Perhaps it was Cheech's natural charisma or his quick wit. Whatever it was, Tommy invited him to join his improv troupe, City Works. And that's when the magic started happening. The chemistry between them was instant and undeniable. During one improvised sketch, they stumbled into a bit about a guy looking for his friend Dave, with the punchline being that the other guy was too stoned to realize he himself was Dave. "Dave's Not Here" became their first viral sensation, long before the internet existed. That single routine, born completely by accident during a live performance, showed them both that they had discovered something extraordinary. Here's something that might shatter the image you have of Cheech and Chong as perpetual best buddies. They weren't. In fact, their relationship offstage was complicated, tense, and often fraught with conflict. Cheech himself has been remarkably candid about this in interviews and his memoir, describing their connection not as a friendship, but as a brotherhood, complete with all the rivalry, resentment, and occasional affection that comes with that territory. "We're brothers, not best friends," Cheech explained in one interview, and that distinction is crucial to understanding their dynamic. Like brothers, they could fight viciously one moment and then seamlessly perform together the next, as if nothing had happened. But that constant tension took its toll over time. The pressure of success, creative differences, and clashing egos created an environment that was both productive and destructive. One of the biggest sources of friction was control over their creative output. While both men were officially credited as writers on all their films, Tommy directed 4 out of their 6 major movies. For Cheech, this imbalance wasn't just about ego, it was about feeling sidelined and undervalued. He believed his contributions were being diminished, and that Tommy was increasingly making unilateral decisions about their shared work. In one particularly revealing documentary moment, Tommy bluntly told Cheech that he never really earned the title of director. Cheech's response was immediate and sharp. "That's a lie. I directed just as much as you did." The breaking point came in 1985, after 17 years of working together. Cheech wanted to pursue a solo project, a song called "Born in East LA," that would eventually become both a hit single and a successful film. He asked Tommy to help him with it, but Tommy refused. That refusal wasn't just about one song. It represented years of accumulated frustrations finally reaching a boiling point. Cheech went ahead with the project alone, and it became a commercial and critical success. But the cost was high. Their partnership was over. Years later, Tommy admitted that the dissolution of their partnership was largely his fault. He acknowledged that he had become what he called a megalomaniac, someone who became drunk on the power of directing and couldn't let go of control. "Your word's God when you're directing," he explained, describing how easy it is to fall into that trap. It's a remarkably honest admission, and it shows real growth and self-awareness. If you think Cheech and Chong's careers peaked with their stoner comedy films, you're missing out on a huge part of their story. Both men have built impressive, diverse careers that extend far beyond what most people realize. Cheech Marin, in particular, has become a prolific voice actor. His distinctive raspy voice has brought life to numerous animated characters that have entertained millions of children and families. He voiced Banzai, one of the memorable hyenas in Disney's The Lion King, a film that became one of the highest-grossing animated movies of all time. He also played Ramon, the colorful lowrider, in Pixar's Cars franchise, appearing in multiple films and shorts. And he lent his voice to Ferngully, the last rainforest, working alongside Robin Williams in an environmentally themed adventure. But Cheech's talents extend beyond animation. He's become a respected actor in his own right, appearing in dozens of films and television shows, including Nash Bridges, where he starred alongside Don Johnson for 6 seasons. He's also become a serious art collector and advocate for Chicano art, amassing one of the most important collections of Chicano artwork in the world. His passion for this art form led to traveling exhibitions and increased recognition for Chicano artists who had long been overlooked by mainstream galleries and museums. Tommy Chong's post-Cheech career took a different but equally fascinating path. He became an unexpected cultural icon all over again when he appeared on That 70s Show as Leo, the perpetually stoned photography shop owner. The role introduced him to a whole new generation of fans and showed that his comedic timing was as sharp as ever. He's also made numerous guest appearances on shows ranging from The Simpsons to Dharma and Greg. But perhaps most surprisingly, Tommy became a serious advocate for cannabis legalization and criminal justice reform after his own brush with the law. In 2003, he was arrested and prosecuted by the federal government for selling glass pipes through his son's company. Many viewed the case as politically motivated and excessively harsh, given that he received a 9-month prison sentence for essentially selling legal products in most states. This experience transformed Tommy from a comedian who joked about marijuana into an activist who spoke seriously about drug policy, mass incarceration, and the war on drugs. The experience was documented in the film aka Tommy Chong, which showed a more vulnerable and thoughtful side of Tommy than audiences had seen before. After his release, he became a vocal advocate for legalization, medical marijuana, and criminal justice reform, using his platform to speak out about issues that affected millions of Americans. Here's something that might genuinely surprise you. Cheech Marin is one of the world's foremost collectors and advocates of Chicano art. This isn't just a hobby or a side interest, it's a serious passion that has consumed decades of his life and millions of dollars. Cheech began collecting Chicano art in the 1980s, long before it had any mainstream recognition or commercial value. He was drawn to the vibrant colors, political messages, and cultural pride expressed in the work of Mexican-American artists who were largely ignored by the traditional art world. While mainstream galleries and museums showed little interest in this work, Cheech saw its power and importance. Over the years, he has amassed a collection of more than 700 pieces, including paintings, sculptures, and mixed media works by artists like Carlos Almaraz, Frank Romero, and Gilbert Magu Lujan. His collection has been exhibited in major museums across the country, and he's worked tirelessly to increase visibility and appreciation for Chicano art. In 2017, Cheech's advocacy reached new heights when the Riverside Art Museum in California agreed to house a permanent collection of his artwork. The Cheech Marin Center for Chicano Art, Culture, and Industry opened in 2022, providing a dedicated space for this important artistic movement. It's the first museum in the United States dedicated exclusively to Chicano art, and it represents the culmination of Cheech's decades-long passion project. This aspect of Cheech's life shows a depth and seriousness that stands in stark contrast to his stoner comedy persona. He's used his fame and resources to support artists, preserve cultural heritage, and create opportunities for underrepresented communities. It's a remarkable legacy that has nothing to do with marijuana jokes. After nearly 2 decades apart, Cheech and Chong eventually reunited for touring and occasional projects. But these reunions weren't always smooth, and they certainly didn't erase the tensions that had driven them apart in the first place. Their first major reunion came in 2008 when they announced the Light Up America tour. Fans were ecstatic to see the legendary duo back together, performing their classic bits and routines for sold-out audiences across the country. On the surface, it looked like a triumphant return, proof that time heals all wounds. But behind the scenes, things were more complicated. Cheech has been candid about the fact that even during their reunion tours, there was still animosity between them. The old resentments hadn't disappeared just because they were sharing a stage again. They had learned to work together professionally, but the deep friendship that fans imagined had never really existed, and it still didn't. Still, there was something powerful about seeing them perform together again. Their chemistry, that intangible spark that made them special in the first place, was still there. Even if they weren't best friends off stage, they could still make audiences laugh together. And for many fans, that was enough. They continued touring intermittently over the next several years, with varying degrees of success and harmony. Some tours went smoothly, others were reportedly marked by disagreements and tension. But they kept coming back together, perhaps because they understood that what they created together was bigger than their personal conflicts. Their legacy mattered to millions of people, and that was worth preserving, even if it meant working with someone who sometimes drove you crazy. In 2012, Tommy Chong revealed that he had been diagnosed with prostate cancer. For someone who had spent decades advocating for cannabis, this diagnosis led him to explore marijuana as part of his treatment protocol. He began using cannabis oil regularly, believing it helped with both symptom management and potentially with fighting the cancer itself. Tommy was characteristic